I used to think marriage was a conversation that never ended. Now I realize it can also be a silence that never stops echoing. My name's Ethan, 42, from Denver. I met Lily when we were both still believing life would bend to our plans. She studied design. I ran a small contracting business. We started with late-night pizza, road trips with broken GPS signals, and laughter that filled everything we couldn't afford. When we married, I promised her the world. Maybe I gave her stability instead, and maybe that wasn't the same thing. For years, our life was steady. Mortgage payments, Sunday pancakes, the occasional trip to her parents' cabin. Nothing wild, nothing broken. But somewhere between everything's fine and I'm just tired, the distance grew. It was quiet at first. She stayed on her phone longer at dinner. I worked later at the shop. One night she asked, "Do you ever feel like this is all there is?" I didn't know what she meant, so I said the safest thing I could think of. "I think it's enough." She nodded, but it wasn't agreement, it was resignation. Months passed. Her tone changed before her words did. She laughed less, sighed more. And then one evening, as I came home with takeout, she didn't even look up from her laptop. "You could have texted," she said. I stood there holding the paper bag, trying to remember when I started needing permission to bring her favorite food. We argued that night, not shouting, not yet. She said she felt stuck, invisible. I said I was trying. She said trying isn't the same as giving. That line stayed with me for weeks. I started waking early, making coffee before she got up, hoping she'd notice the small things again. She didn't. Her eyes were always somewhere else, far away, behind screens and half-finished thoughts. Then one Saturday morning, while I was fixing the fence out back, she came out with her phone in her hand, face pale but steady. "Ethan, can we talk?" I wiped my hands and leaned on the post. "Sure." She inhaled slowly, like someone about to jump. "You can't give me what I want." The words dropped like tools hitting concrete. I stared at her, waiting for a follow-up. Something, anything, to make it make sense. "What is it you want?" I asked. She shook her head. "More." I don't even know what that means anymore, but it's not this. I wanted to ask if there was someone else, but her eyes already told me the answer didn't matter. The problem wasn't another person. It was everything I wasn't. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling while she scrolled her phone next to me. The glow lit her face in a way that felt like a different world. We'd become roommates with memories. The next day, I found myself driving aimlessly, ending up in front of the diner where we had our first date. The same neon sign flickered. The same smell of burnt coffee and grease hung in the air. I remembered her laugh then, how it sounded before life got heavy. When I came home, she was packing a weekend bag. "Going somewhere?" I asked. "Just need space. My sister's." I nodded. I didn't stop her. That silence, after the door closed, was thicker than anger. It was the kind of quiet that makes you talk to the walls just to hear something human. 3 days later, she came back, calm but colder. She made tea, sat across from me, and said, "Ethan, you're a good man. But good isn't enough for me anymore." I felt the sting, but something inside me was already numb. "So what now?" I asked. She looked up, eyes glossy but not soft. "I don't know. I just know I can't live like this." That's when it happened. Not loud, not dramatic. Just a sentence that escaped before I could think. "Then maybe you need a divorce." The moment the words left my mouth, the air changed. She blinked once, twice, then turned away, whispering, "Maybe I do." The conversation ended there, but the silence that followed was its own kind of storm. I slept on the couch that night, listening to the clock tick louder than usual, realizing that sometimes endings don't shout. They just arrive quietly and sit beside you until you notice you're alone. The next morning, she was already dressed when I came into the kitchen. She poured herself coffee, not looking at me, not even pretending. The air felt like a waiting room before bad news. "I'll stay with my sister for a while," she said flatly. "We both need time." I nodded even though every instinct wanted to argue. But I'd learned something in that silence between us. Fighting to keep someone who's already halfway out the door just turns you into the noise they're escaping. So I let her go. The first few days felt like drifting. The house sounded different without her footsteps. The bed looked wider, the air colder. I caught myself still making 2 cups of coffee out of habit. Then I'd pour one down the sink, watching it swirl away like everything else we'd built. People always say heartbreak hits hardest at night, but for me it was mornings. Seeing the sunlight fall on her empty side of the bed was a reminder that she didn't just leave a place, she left a pattern. A week passed before she texted. We should talk about next steps. No greeting, no emotion, just logistics. When we met at a small cafe downtown, she looked different, calm, even peaceful. I guess freedom has a way of smoothing edges. She started first. I've talked to someone, a lawyer, just to understand options. I nodded again. I had no energy left for surprise. She hesitated, searching my face. I'm not angry, Ethan, I just don't feel anything anymore. It's strange how the absence of emotion can hurt more than anger. At least anger means there's something left to fight for. I said, if this is what you need to be happy, I won't stand in your way. She nodded, her eyes glassy but steady. You don't hate me? I looked at her for a long moment. No. I think I stopped trying to hate you the day I realized we both outgrew the same dream. She didn't reply, just looked down at her cup, hands trembling slightly. When she left, I sat there long after the coffee went cold. I kept replaying our years together, the laughter, the little routines, the fights that never really ended but faded into silence. It's strange how love doesn't vanish all at once. It erodes slowly until one day you realize the shore's gone. Over the next month, things unfolded quietly. Papers filed, signatures exchanged. She came by once to collect her things, moving, with the careful politeness of a stranger in someone else's home. Before leaving, she paused at the doorway. You really were good to me, Ethan. I just wanted more. I smiled faintly. I hope you find it. She nodded, eyes wet. I hope you do too. And then she was gone. For real this time. That night, I didn't feel broken. Just emptied. Like a storm had finally passed, leaving everything standing but stripped clean. I started rebuilding my life in small ways. Fixed the leaky faucet. Took evening walks. Called friends I hadn't seen in months. Some nights, I'd sit on the porch and watch the sky turn orange, remembering how she used to rest her head on my shoulder during sunsets. It didn't hurt anymore. It just felt distant, like a story I'd once read and almost forgotten. A few weeks later, her sister called to say Lily had moved to Seattle for a new job. She sounded happy, apparently. I wished her well. Truly. Because by then I'd stopped wishing things had gone differently. Sometimes losing someone isn't tragedy, it's truth. The truth that love can't survive on effort alone. That enough for one person can still feel like not enough for another. One evening I found her old coffee mug at the back of the cupboard, the one with a crack down the handle. For a second I almost threw it away, but I didn't. I washed it, set it back where it belonged. Not as a reminder of her, but of everything that ended quietly and still mattered somehow. I don't hate her. I don't even miss her. I just understand now. We think relationships end when someone walks out, but most of them die long before that, somewhere between unspoken disappointment and quiet acceptance. Looking back, I realize she was right about one thing. I couldn't give her what she wanted. But not because I didn't try, because what she wanted kept changing, and love that has to keep chasing its shape eventually runs out of breath. These days, when people ask if I'd ever marry again, I just smile and say, maybe. But not until I find someone who understands that peace is louder than passion. I used to think the hardest part was letting go. It's not. It's learning to stay gone. And so, the night I signed the final papers, I sat on the same couch where she once told me I wasn't enough. I poured myself a drink, raised the glass to the silence, and whispered, You were right, Lily. I couldn't give you what you wanted, but I can give myself what I need. For the first time in years, that felt like enough.